Take two. We looked at the wrong menu. We're at a brewery, and the waiter came out and told me he didn't have the beer that we ordered, and we were so disappointed that we had to pause the recording and start over. So, cheers again, District 96.
Chaim.
So District 96, recap very quickly. Brewery, amazing IPAs, sweet, juicy. I was talking to a guy named Will, who started Dream State in Florida. And he has this crazy reputation. He started apparently he was involved in starting Other Half, Equilibrium, and Trillium, which make some of the best beers in the country. And he said that the secret to District 96's beer, the IPAs, is they paid the most for the best water filter. And apparently beer, like pizza or bagels or whatever, comes just completely down to the quality of the water. Like hops matter, of course, the sugar matters, the yeast matters, whatever it is.
Well, before you introduce your guest,
What, who?
Me.
You. I don't have to introduce you, dude. Just you. Yeah.
Heineken that's what they're known for. Throughout the world, they use the same water. So no matter where they brew throughout the world, they make sure that the water quality is pretty much exactly the same.
How do they do that? Do they ship water?
I'm not 100% sure if they ship water, but
I've heard of people shipping water from like New York to California.
But they have like the same distilling process and everything for the water specifically. So Heineken is brewed exactly the same no matter where you are in the world, so that it would taste the same.
That's so interesting.
No matter where you are. That's what they told us when I was in Amsterdam.
Not that I've ever done this, but apparently Heineken and cocaine go really well together. And
I didn't try that.
During the Grateful Dead's early years in the 70s, apparently that was like a huge thing. They were in Amsterdam touring in 72, and that's when they discovered, or maybe 74. I know 72 they toured. I think they went back 74. And at that point, amphetamines were already all over their scene. And they just were there's cocaine and Heineken everywhere, all over that tour. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate it, brother. Thank you.
Want food, right?
No, thank you. We're good with just drinks. Thank you. So, bye.
Okay.
Okay. Keeping this authentic, keeping it light. We just ordered a West Coast IPA from a place that primarily specializes in East Coast. It's good. It's very caramelly. It's got some caramel, got some of those West Coast hops. It's very solid. Anyway, so yeah, the Grateful Dead would do that. And so cocaine and Heineken. Did you go to Heineken factory?
Yeah, I did.
You did, right?
Yeah. So went to the Heineken factory, which was really cool. We've been to Guinness.
We've been to Guinness.
We've been to Guinness.
Yeah.
So
how'd it compare?
Similar in the fact that pretty much commercialized.
Okay.
It felt like you were.
Is it the center of this, the city? Like everything revolves around Heineken, or
No, because Amsterdam, I think there's a lot more to do in Amsterdam than in Ireland, in Dublin, besides for just drinking Guinness and listening to music.
Yeah.
But the fact that, it's pretty much, it's close to the center of the city in Amsterdam, but how they compare, they both were very commercialized. It felt like you were going in Chocolate World and Hershey Park.
Yeah.
So if anybody's been there, it's very, very similar vibes. It's like a museum, right? You don't actually really see them brewing beer. They talk about the process and stuff like that.
What do they taste like?
Yeah. So the friend that I was with in Amsterdam, Sean. I was with our friend Sean.
Yeah. Shout out Sean Levin. He's the man.
Yeah. So we did a behind the scenes VIP tour, which was not that expensive. It was $70 to get a full behind the scenes. We got to taste some special beers that were on tap there that they're trying out. Or
what do they do that's special
on the tour, or that's different?
No, it's about the beer, because Heineken's a lager, right?
It's a lager, so they partner with other breweries to try to do a little bit more on their experimental side. So they've bought some smaller craft breweries within.
Oh, they're one of those.
Yeah, they bought some smaller craft breweries within that area in Europe, and they'll experiment with those. So we got to taste a bunch of different beers.
You know what styles they were?
Yeah, we had their regular Heineken.
Okay.
Then we had their Heineken like light beer, so it's kind of like a Bud Light-ish, but a Heineken. And then we had a Belgian. We had
a Belgian Heineken.
No, it's just a Belgian beer. A Belgian beer that they're like their
very
brewers.
different tasting.
Their brewers like came up with. And then we also had a mango. I think it was a mango IPA or mango sour IPA. I don't remember.
Okay.
And that was like garbage.
You know what it's like? I hate to call out bad beer, but Hollywood Brewing on the beach.
Oh yeah, it's that mango.
On the beach,
that mango IPA
is trash, dude. It's so bad, and they just keep on making it, and they don't change it up, and it's just so bad. It's legitimately, I think, the only brewery where every single time I'm like, this place sucks. Like,
yeah,
the place is really cool, but the beer is not great, and they have good happy hour options, like tequila and a beer for like $5 or something crazy like that. But the beer itself is not great craft beer.
Yeah, I mean, I think also, so we did like a behind the scenes, so we got to like, and I think there's a lot of beauty in going to breweries and stuff where you kind of like, you learn about the process, and then, I don't know, you're meeting a lot of people. Like we were in this like bar, it was like 10 of us, and then you get to talk to people, and you kind of are bonding over beer, and like you're bonding. Obviously, your common denominator is what you're drinking, but at the end of the day, you get to learn about. There was a guy that was sitting next to me that was from the Isle of Man, which is the island in like right off of Ireland, and it's like between Ireland and
it's called
like
Man. M-A-N-N?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like Isle of Man.
Zack's just pulling up Isle of Man online. Yeah.
Yeah, so this guy was from the Isle of Man. He was like a sheep farmer, which was like super interesting.
A sheep farmer?
Yeah. And he's like always wanted to go to Amsterdam, so him and his wife went on a trip. They saved up money and they went.
That's so crazy. Imagine how much... I can't imagine how much money a sheep farmer makes, and I can't imagine how long it would take to save to go on like an international trip. I know like they're like Europe, and like, you know, it's not so far from Amsterdam to Ireland or Man or whatever it is, but I can't imagine they make that much money either. That it'd probably take a lot of time.
So when I was talking to him, I was like, oh, like it's actually funny. And he was like, you know Isle of Man? I was like, the only reason why I know about it is because I went on a trip with my friend, and that's you, Effie Hirschman. We went to Dublin, and we flew over Isle of Man on the way in. Like I was watching
it's
it
east of Ireland?
It's no, it's between the UK. Yeah, no, it's east of Ireland. It's between the UK and Ireland.
Oh, it's between. So how would we fly over it?
When we were coming around, we came up and around.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was like the flight path that we took. I just remember it because
I was baked.
I also was, but then
did we fly? We flew in the evening, right?
Yeah.
We flew in the evening.
You took an edible. You took an edible. You passed out.
I was sleeping the whole flight.
Yeah, the whole flight.
Yeah.
And then on the way back,
we had a lot of turbulence.
You had a lot of turbulence, and you also were baked.
Yeah. I saved we saved the chocolate. We had one of those punch bars, and we had to make sure we rationed enough that we had enough for the flight back, so that because we didn't want to be sober for the. Oh, you know why? Because we were flying.
Yeah, but I was sober
for some
the
reason.
Flight back.
We wanted to be awake. We wanted to be sleeping specifically during our flight back, right?
No, the opposite. We wanted to be awake during our flight back because we've had a day flight, and you took an edible and you passed out for like the 6 hours of the flight, and I'm there watching the movie Departed.
It's an hour later, right?
It's like 2 hours after we took off.
Right, because of the 4 hour time difference.
Yeah, and I was watching the movie of The Departed, which is an incredible movie. And then all of a sudden we hit turbulence, and I think we're gonna fall out of the sky.
Dude,
that was when I had my fear of flying. Now I've gotten over it. I'm not scared of flying.
But that
anymore.
caused a fear of flying?
No. I always was like not scared of flying, but I used to have not a fear of flying because I would get on a plane no problem, but I never enjoyed turbulence. Like every time there's turbulence, I get very nervous, very anxious.
Yeah, I hate turbulence, dude.
But now that I've flown.
When I was like
so much that I don't. These things
doesn't bother you anymore.
Doesn't bother me
really?
Because I know that it's pretty routine. Like unless it's like really really bad, then I mean I still get a little nervous, but I definitely know that like it's pretty standard. I mean flying is one of the safest modes of transportation.
Yeah.
So.
Would you ever get in a helicopter?
No, not at all. I would never because so my grandfather was drafted in the Korean War. and he's an engineer by trade. So he worked on the helicopters, and the first time helicopters were used in combat was during the Korean War, which was right after World War II. So he was one of the engineers that were helping build and design helicopters, and he said that he himself, because he worked on them, obviously this was almost 80 years ago.
Yeah.
But
bet a lot's changed.
Probably more 70 years ago. But yeah, it's changed a lot, but it's still, there's so many moving parts in a helicopter, so if one fails, like, you're dead. I mean,
dude, I would never get in a helicopter, man.
Never.
I would never get in a helicopter. I used to, I was never afraid of flying until I was probably in 9th grade or 10th grade, and I was visiting my grandparents in Miami over Thanksgiving. I was flying by myself, and the movie Castaway was on the plane. And because it was one of the first times, I think JetBlue was relatively new at that point, right? JetBlue only came into existence when we were probably 8 or 9 years old.
Yeah.
Right? So it's been around for 20 years, right? So it was the first time I flew JetBlue, and it was so cool. They had all these cable TV on an airplane, which was unheard of, and they had all these shows, and I'm watching, and I heard of the movie Castaway, and I don't know what it's about. And I put it on. The first scene, obviously, is that what do you call it? That crash, and we had a shit ton of turbulence on that flight, and it scared the hell out of me for a long time. And then Yoni Gable, our friend from Binghamton, who was an electrical engineer but also part-time pilot, told me that apparently turbulence is intentional, and that the pilots see the rough patch of air, or they have a way of detecting it, and it's safer to go into it and with it, like go, ride the turbulence rather than go against it and risk damaging a part of the plane. And so if you actually try to fight the turbulence, it's more dangerous than experiencing it.
Well, they also have gas, so that if they try to go around it, and they might not have enough gas.
That too. And Dan, my friend Denver Dan, was a flight attendant when he was just out of college. I mean, this 30 years ago. But he told me that one of the most dangerous parts about turbulence isn't the plane damage, but people bouncing around. And if someone's walking, he's like, people have gone concussed, people have gone like head traumas or broken limbs, and like, or if a stewardess or a steward is pushing a trolley down the aisle during turbulence, like that's how people get hurt. That's just a massive insurance liability. But
yeah, I think I had on my flight back from Africa, I had. Which is probably the longest flight I've ever taken. It was like a little over 15 hours.
And you didn't take any edibles?
Nothing. I mean, it was after our huge Kilimanjaro trip, which we could get into.
Yeah, we should definitely get into.
But it's because it was after that trip. I was just so exhausted that I slept. But I remember one time during the flight, they made an announcement. We're flying over the Sahara Desert, and they made an announcement that like we're flying over the desert. There might be more turbulence. And they all flight attendants return to your seats. You're like, oh God.
Yeah. Oh my God. When they say, what is it? Flight attendants take the jump seat.
Take your jump seat. I'm like, jump seat.
Are we about to die?
And this pilot from Air Kenya was like, flight attendants, take your jump seats. And I was like, oh crap, we're about to go over the Atlantic, the longest part of this flight, over the middle of the Atlantic Ocean with no one there. And then you have all this anticipatory anxiety over what's about to happen, and we hit nothing.
Wow, that's awesome. I mean, it's crazy. Like there's so much tension. There's so much tension when that happens. Tell me about Kilimanjaro, dude. You went 2 years ago, last year?
I went to Kilimanjaro in July of 2022, so 2 years ago.
That's
almost.
Crazy. It was 2 years ago.
Yeah, it was 2 years ago already. Which is wild.
It legitimately feels like yesterday.
Feels like yesterday. It definitely feels like yesterday. I could definitely relive it in my brain, and it feels like yesterday.
It's very vivid.
Very vivid. A very vivid memory. Because I think it's very vivid because it was a very, I wouldn't say transformative, because I don't think it's a transformative part, but I think it was a very impactful trip in terms of learning about yourself and your body.
Sure.
So, learned a lot of lessons from that. So that's why I could literally relive the hike in my head.
So you decided, you currently live in Manhattan.
Correct.
You decided, your friends invited you? It was an organized trip, right?
Yeah, so basically, I already had a trip planned.
And you just went along for the ride. Like, yeah, there was on a 2 itinerary. Someone did all the planning for everything.
So basically, as you've probably all been listening, I like to travel a lot, and thank God had privileges to go to a lot of places. But I already had a trip planned for 2 weeks in Europe in May of that year to go with another friend of mine. But
to where?
That's when I went to Scotland, London, and Rome.
Was that the same summer?
Same summer. Summer. That was in May.
So far, by the way, in the last 20 minutes, we talked about Amsterdam, Ireland, Scotland, London, and Africa. Kilimanjaro was in Africa?
Yeah, it's in Africa.
Yeah, Africa. Pretty crazy.
And I was I was at a party on the west side, and this kid, Eitan Bardash, turns around and he goes, who I went to elementary school with, we're acquaintances at that time, and he turns around and he goes, oh, you went to camp and you were in a very outdoorsy camp, it's a camp called Camp Stone, and you like to hike, you like to be outside, you're an adventurous person, I'm organizing this trip to go to Kilimanjaro, do you want to go? And I was like, yes, but I gotta have to figure this out, so I'm gonna have to but yes, I'm in. I'm gonna make this work.
Was it scary the second that you heard
No, it's something that I wanted to do. I actually, when I first heard about
didn't Gabby do it?
Yeah, exactly. Gabby's why.
Yeah. Shout out Gabby, she's awesome.
A good friend of ours from Binghamton went. She did this trip and she spoke about it. She wrote about it, and it's always something that I wanted to do, and I knew it was definitely possible. There's not that much training that needs to get into it. So yeah, long story short is it's something that was always on my radar. And Eitan just approached me about going on this trip, and I said yes. And I'll figure out all the logistics later. Thank God at the time I had a pretty flexible job. In terms of I was working for a startup for at the time. Currently not there now, which we can get into. But yeah, I was working remote, and I had unlimited PTO, so I took pretty much full advantage of that. And yeah, so I asked my boss. My boss was super chill, and he was like, yeah, as long as you just get your work done, go for it. This once in a lifetime opportunity. So I did it. Was I scared? I was very nervous going in. I didn't know anybody on this trip really. I knew a couple of people.
How many people went?
We were 12 people.
Guys and girls.
12 people. And ended up at the end, we only ended up with 10. 2 people had to leave the trip early. Or kind of halfway through, just for other reasons, personal reasons that they had to leave the trip. And so 10 of us ended up just summiting. And we were basically 6 guys, 4 girls.
Summiting is a great word.
Summiting and acclimatizing are two.
What's it?
Acclimatizing.
Acclimatizing? That means to climb up the mountain?
No, it means to get used to the altitude, to acclimate.
Oh, so the guy would ask you, have you guys acclimatized
No, he's
yet?
Every day we're we're acclimatizing, or that's
so
what this British guy that ran. But yeah, it was an incredible trip. It was a 7-day round trip. It was a 7-day round trip.
Welcome. Yeah, we're perfect. Thank you.
It was a 7-day round trip. It took about 5.5 days to get up, a day of rest. We had our Sabbath, which is the day that we can't work. That was a day of rest, so it was built.
Yes, Big Lebowski says.
It was built into the trip. Most groups that go on these also have a day of rest, so it wasn't it added or took away from anything. And yeah, it was just an incredible opportunity. Pushed your body to the absolute limit. I would say it's probably 70%.
You think the absolute limit?
I think it's. I think
absolute limit, but you'd have to train.
Not physically. I think more mentally. They say it's about 70% mental, 30% physical.
Do you think that's true?
100%.
You think that ratio is a good ratio?
Yeah, I think it's way more mental than it is
What's
physical.
mental about what's the mental challenge that you have to persevere through?
Because of the altitude, you start to experience altitude sickness. Unless you're an experienced mountaineer, you're gonna start experiencing it. Even though there's medication that you take to help curb some of the symptoms, you still have the experience, and the experience, everybody has a little bit of a different, symptoms. It depends on your body. Some of the guys that, the organizers of the trip, he's done this hundreds of times, and sometimes he doesn't get sick, and sometimes he does. It really varies.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So you could do it 5 times and get sick once.
And once.
like after the 3rd time.
Like,
then it doesn't happen again.
I mean, if I went again, I would get sick again because, like...
You got sick?
I got sick, yeah.
What was the symptoms?
I almost passed out. Well, I actually did pass out at one point. And there was a point there where I wasn't going to go up to the summit.
You were not going
I
to?
was not going. They weren't going to send me.
I'm so happy you made it through, though.
Oh, my God.
That would suck if you flew to Africa and then you didn't make it up.
I know. I actually just had a friend. I got 2 other friends to go through the same trip organizer. And one of the kids didn't make it.
Way.
Yeah.
Wow. You can't even, like, fault the guy because, like, if he's sick and, like, physically he can't make it happen. Like, I get it. But, like, that's so heartbreaking to hear. You fly, what was it, 15 hours each way?
There's no direct flights, so on the way there I flew through Doha.
Where's Doha?
In Qatar.
Okay.
And then on the way back we flew through Nairobi, Kenya, and then so it's like a 15-hour flight.
Wow, that sucks. Poor guy.
Yeah.
Girl, guy.
Guy.
God damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
you when I actually, because I've done Yam Yam, which is in Israel, where you walk from sea to sea, from river to the sea, and
very apropos to our times, I guess.
That's right. You walk from sea to sea. Yam Yam literally means from sea to sea in Hebrew, and it's not very far. I think it's like 40 miles, and it generally takes between 3 and 5 days, depending how leisurely you're doing it. And we did it super impromptu. My friend, I believe it was John Gallitzer, but I don't remember for sure, knocked on my door. Someone knocked on my door and was like, we were on like a 2-week break from yeshiva in school. And he goes, we're going on a hike. You want to come? And I'm like, yeah. I like grab a backpack and put on my sneakers. He's like, no,
Did you
dude.
have a sleeping bag and anything?
He goes, dude, it's a 3-day hike. I'm like, a 3-day hike? What the heck are we doing for 3 days? Where are we hiking to? And so I packed like peanut butter and jelly cereal and like some bread. And like that's what we packed. But I remember thinking to myself,
food at that point?
oh yeah, no, we were not at all prepared. It was 12 guys. Also, 3 guys dropped out after the first day, because we really we didn't. Generally, people do this with a tour guide, and we didn't have a tour guide. John had a map, and every day he would just try to figure out our route, and we would just try to walk there. And like if we deviated at all, we would just have to improvise, which was wild. And
it's a good adventure.
Yeah, but one of the things, because actually, what you were saying about Kilimanjaro, where you felt like it could have been yesterday. I remember thinking every single, almost at least once every hour, or very, very, very frequently, I was thinking to myself, I know that this is the experience of a lifetime and I have to remember everything, and I definitely do not remember everything. There is so much over those 3 days that, I wish I could, recall vividly that I don't. There are certain things that pop out, but majority of those 3 days kind of just faded. And I know mine happened 10 years ago and yours happened 2 years ago, but even a year or two later,
I don't know what it would be like in 10 years from now, what I would think about if I look back on this memory. But yeah, I think
one of the interesting things, I think the reason why this might happen. So yesterday when I was in the mall with Mary and Lippy, with my friends, we were in the Palisades Mall, and we were walking through, and we hadn't been in the mall together, the 3 of us, in probably 15 years. And we were walking through, and we were talking about what stores have been there for a long time or not. We're like, Barnes & Noble's been there forever, Target's been there forever. And then Lippy goes, remember Jeepers?
AMC. Jeepers, I do remember Jeepers.
And I'm like, and one of the things that our memory, works based on associations, right? Yeah. So if something is not immediate, so we don't have a scroll that in the back of our head that we scroll through to see what we remember. Something will trigger either a location or a conversation or a sound or a smell. One of our senses will trigger a memory, will trigger an association, and that will result in a memory being drawn forward, right? So when's the last time we thought about Jeepers?
Until you brought it up just right now.
Yeah, exactly. And the only reason why he thought about it was because we were in the mall, right? So right. I think that those memories are still there in my head, but I haven't had anything to bring that association to the forefront of my awareness.
Now when I'm asking, when you're talking about it now, right? Like when we were just talking about, and you're now just bringing up your Yam Liam experience, does it feel like can you picture yourself being there? Like you could picture those experiences?
I could picture a couple of moments. There was one particular moment. I have a friend from Detroit. This was the third day out of 3 days. And I don't know why he thought this was like a even remotely intelligent thing to do, but he ate like salami that was in his bag for 3 days. Now we're in the Middle East, we're in Israel, we're in the we're hiking for 3 days, 2.5 days at this point.
We ate salami in Ireland that was like a week old.
Yeah, we had a fridge.
Oh, right.
We had a fridge. This
Fair
is sitting
point.
in the back of his backpack. We were outdoors the entire time. We didn't shower for 2 days. We reeked. And he ate the salami, and we're walking through a dried up riverbed. Right, so the riverbed is completely white. Just millions of white stones along the riverbed, and he eats this. And he gets violent diarrhea, like intense diarrhea. And there's no bathrooms. We're just in the middle of nowhere. We're just walking across the country.
Yeah.
And
it's one of the side effects for altitude sickness.
What, diarrhea?
Yeah.
I believe it, dude. This is one of the side effects of eating spoiled meat that's left out in your backpack for 3 days. And I was like, and we had to, and we kept on stopping. And I think someone packed wipes. Someone else called them a wimp for packing wipes, and I was like, I kind of get it. Like, you don't have to suffer. You don't have to use like a leaf or a rock to wipe. I think we pooped. We didn't poop very frequently on the trip. I think just the notion of pooping outside, and also we generally weren't very well fed. Like we didn't have a lot of food going through our system, that. But that was one thing that I recall very vividly. I remember we got lost in an Arab village. That was scary because we didn't really know what kind of Arab tribe it was, whether they're village it was, whether they're friendly or not, or like what they thought about Jews or not, and or Israelis.
But
rock climb, cliff. But most of, I would say 90 or 85% of those memories are like, I think I would need some kind of trigger. Like either visual or sensory trigger to be like, oh yeah, I did that. Oh yeah, I remember that. You know?
I think there's definitely parts of the trip that are more faded than others, obviously, but there are pivotal moments within that trip that I definitely remember and can still like picture. But yeah, like I said before, it's definitely was 70% mental, 30% physical, because you're not hiking, like you're hiking a lot, you're hiking super slowly, but it's more of the mental stamina of like, you're getting sick, you're getting uncomfortable, you haven't showered, like after day two.
It's such a bad feeling.
After day two, you kind of just don't care because your mind, like not showering, not really changing clothing, you don't really like think about it because your mind is on so many other things. But yeah, I mean, it's more mental. I mean, they really tell you every day that your goal is to get to like the next camp, right? We're not, they teach you to kind of break the trip up into small achievable goals.
Yeah.
Because we didn't talk about going to the summit until the night before. We were not allowed to mention the word summit the entire trip until the night before we went off to the summit. We would always refer to it as like something in like this like esoteric kind of like
godly.
You
say Ellie's name at his bachelor
exactly.
party.
Yeah, exactly. Like you really weren't allowed to, and it was like purposely because they wanted to get you in the right mindset. That like, okay, like our goal today was like to get to here.
Yeah.
Because the goal of the trip is not like they say the goal of the trip is not to summit the mountain. The goal is to like experience, which is like more or less true. Obviously, it would suck if you didn't. And there was a point where I almost didn't, and it was. I mean, thank God I did.
Wait, so they weren't going to let you?
Basically, what happened was we had Shabbat, our day of rest. The next day was a long, tough hike where we were hiking in an alpine desert. So basically, it felt like you're walking on the moon. There was no vegetation. We're in a desert, basically, but you're at about 15,000 feet in elevation at that point.
So it's just, what is it, rocks?
It's just like small little rocks that are like, they're volcanic rocks. So it's
they're
like
black
they look like lunar rocks. Like it's all like volcanic.
Okay, yeah.
And
it's not white rocks.
No. It's just whatever. It just looks like darker rocks. And we're going from, basically we're walking what's called the saddle, which is like Kilimanjaro is kind of like, there's one volcano and there's like a little sister volcano kind of next to it, and there's this valley. It's like an alpine desert, and it's like called the Saddle, kind of like a horse's saddle. So you walk down. So basically, it looks really flat, but at the end, you actually start gaining a lot of elevation.
Yeah.
And the last part of the hike was really tough. Like, it wasn't steep, but it just, because we're getting to 16,000, 17,000 feet, it's tough. It's getting a lot more difficult. At that point, I wasn't really feeling great to begin with. We get to camp, which was called base camp, which is the camp right before we summit. We get there at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We have lunch. We go to sleep. We get up for dinner around 6. During dinner, there was a girl that was not feeling well. She passed out a couple times along that hike. They were taking care of her in the camp. She was still like, no point in the trip did I feel medically unsafe. Shout out to PJS Challenges. They're the ones that Perry Sugarman is the one who leads this trip. Highly recommend. PJS, Perry nice. Jason Sugarman, that's how he gets the name. And they run expeditions throughout the whole world. They cater towards people that have, that are Jewish, that have Orthodox, restrictions, Shomer Shabbat, and kosher. So dietary restrictions. And so he's there are like, the people in our group are taking care of her, and we're eating dinner, and it starts getting cold. So I go back to my tent to get another layer. And I come back to our mess tent where we were eating quickly, because they were serving soup, and I was like, the soup was amazing. So and it keeps you warm, and it's just so nourishing. So you're like, okay, like in my head, I'm like, I can't miss out on soup. Like, I don't want to miss a bowl. There was not enough. There's like, everybody maybe like gets a bowl. Sometimes you could get seconds. So like, I rushed back, and I walked back a lot quicker, and I sit in my chair, and I start, and I can't catch my own breath because I'm just exhausted, and because of the lack of oxygen. And then I start freaking out in my mind, and I already see them taking care of this girl, and I probably psyched myself out. And the next thing I see is my friend Yossi tapping me on the shoulder, and he screams to Perry. He's like, Perry, look at Zack. And the next thing I remember, I'm on the ground, and they have my legs raised.
You blacked out?
Yeah. They have my legs raised up in the air. I have blankets wrapped around me.
Why did they put your legs in there?
Because they want the blood to go to the core, your core,
okay.
Like your core organs, so your heart, your brain, your lungs.
That's important.
Yeah, so they raise your legs so the blood kind of rushes back there. And I eat something, everybody else goes back to sleep. We set off for the summit at midnight. So I talked to Perry, and I'm like, the guy who was running the trip, I was like, Perry, do you think I could do this? He was like, go to sleep, let's see how you feel, eat something. So I go back, I wake up.
Smart of him to answer like that, by the way, not to jump to any conclusion.
Yeah, exactly. And I go to sleep. I slept a little bit. It's 11:30. They wake us up. We change. We all get more
11:30
gear.
p.m. Okay.
We're setting off at midnight.
Oh, you start hiking at midnight
to go to the summit. Yeah.
Why?
Because they want it when it's its coldest. Because what you're hiking up is basically like sand. It's thicker. It's like pebbles. And they want it frozen so that it's easier, so your feet don't sink into it.
That's so interesting. Okay.
Because on the way down, when you come down, you slide down this stuff. It's called scurrying, which is super cool. But it basically, so I get up, I walk into the mess tent, and this girl turns to me and she goes, "Are you okay, Zack? You sure you want to do this? Or how are you feeling?" And in my head, I'm like, what the heck am I doing here? Why am I doing this? Then I start questioning to myself, why am I doing this?
Really?
Yeah, because
so you had a doubt. You had a doubt whether you wanted to finish it.
I was like, I'm not feeling well. I'm like.
But you're right there.
Yeah, but I'm like, but you're. It's not you're not miserable, but you're just so uncomfortable. You're so uncomfortable. So your brain is get me out of here, right? Your brain naturally wants to get back to a place of comfort. No matter where you are in life, you want to get back to places of comfort. So you basically, and I asked myself, I was like, what the heck am I doing here? Am I, it's not healthy. It's not maybe safe to be up here. Why am I here? And I go to Perry and I'm like, Perry, do you think I should do this? And he was like, Zack, I've seen people a lot worse than you that have done it. I'm going to keep a guide with you the whole time. You might as well try it. If at any point we see that you're not doing well or you're unsafe, we are going to take you down immediately. But I've seen people worse, and I think you got to at least start and try it.
Yeah. Good
so
for him.
I did. I ate a little bit, ate some popcorn, had some tea biscuits, and we set off for the summit. And I had this Tanzanian, one of our guides. His name was Isaac. He was 57-year-old man. He's been doing this his whole life. He was with us the whole trip. I got to know him throughout the trip. And he sat and he walked with me the entire time. And he just spoke to me. We,
this was, the hike's a breeze to him.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like, it's not a breeze, but it's definitely, like, I mean, he's used to it. I learned a lot about him and his family. And honestly, the crazy part was the whole trip I didn't listen to music at all.
That's crazy.
Because I didn't want to. I wanted to be. Like,
oh, you could have though.
I could have listened on my iPhone. Like, I barely used your phone.
How'd you charge stuff?
We had like battery packs, but there was no service, so the only time you used your phone was to take pictures
or listen to music,
which most people really didn't. I only saved music when I knew I felt like I would absolutely need it as like a motivation. So I saved it for summit night, and I was listening to music, listening with Isaac.
What were you listening to?
Honestly, I don't even remember. Like, probably shuffle on my Spotify, which is like this wide range of.
Yeah, it's pretty wide,
pretty diverse. But yeah, we.
You don't remember any of the songs you listened to?
No, I mean, part of the summit night, I in a way like blacked out, no memory of.
Yeah.
It was pretty grueling. And all I wanted to do was waiting for the sun to rise. And when that sun rose, you saw that sun come up the horizon. You're like, okay, I could do this. It was like a source of inspiration. Got to the, crater rim. And we were about 2 hours. It was a 12-hour round trip. It was about 10 hours up to the summit and 2 hours back down to base camp. But when I got up there,
That's crazy.
Yeah, and I got up to the sign and I got up there. Everybody got their pictures, whatever. And I walk up to the sign and I just taking it around, looking around. And I feel a tap on my shoulder. And it's Isaac. And he goes, Zack, I told you can make it. He goes, I told you could do it. And I just, broke down crying.
You did?
Yeah, nice. Cried a lot, which I think crying is a really important thing for people to do. But it was, because I was just like pure emotion. It was just like it wasn't for this guy, I don't think I would have made it. And it wasn't for this person that I probably will never meet ever again in my life.
That's crazy. Yeah, you probably never see him again.
Never. Unless I go back to Tanzania.
And even then, how are you going to get in touch?
I would, yeah.
You have to go to his village, right?
Yeah.
And look through the tents.
Basically. But yeah, so that was...
So that's a moment that's going to stay ingrained in your life forever.
Probably. I mean, you probably have those too. Birth of your child.
Yeah, but that was more into panic than anything else. That was a panic experience because
getting married.
Yeah, getting married. I was consciously. I've been dating in hopes of getting married for 6-7 years prior to getting married. And I knew that everyone always says that your wedding just flies by, and I didn't want that to be the case. Like, I wanted to remember. The only time that I don't have any recollection really of is the first dance. In a lot of Jewish weddings, they'll have a marriage ceremony. They'll have the first dance where everyone that isn't immediately close to the groom and the bride will dance with them for 20 minutes or half an hour or 45 minutes or whatever, it depends on the wedding. And then you have a meal, you take a break for the meal, and everyone eats and you hang out and you catch up and you take more pictures. And then the second dance is, by then a lot of people that aren't very close have already left, it's already getting later. And then you have a second dance, which is more casual music, more fun time. That first dance, I don't have any recollection of.
Zero.
The only thing I remember is being exhausted. I remember being out of breath, and I remember thinking to myself that all I have to do, I can't quit dancing because hopefully this is going to be the only wedding of my life. And, and I don't want to not have been present or part of like every minute of it. But other than that, but even that was, and you and I actually talked about this a couple weeks ago, and I came to you for the weekend, but I was disassociating a lot of leading up to getting married because the consequence of that decision or that action is so enormous, and I'm generally
you've told me before, I mean, not to turn the podcast back onto an interview to the host, but but when you have big things in life, you tend to
in order to get them done, I shut myself off.
Right,
exactly. So
which some would say might not be the healthiest, but some say it's actually could get you because else you maybe never would have done it.
Right, exactly.
So like you got the result that you wanted.
Yeah, it took me maybe between 6 months and a year of actually being married for it to like resonate with me that I was married. Like it kind of just felt like I was almost like playing pretend, you know, or like I just didn't think about it. Like
I think I saw a change. I mean, Effie and I have been friends for what?
Since we were 14, 15?
Yeah.
15? And 28, 29 now? Yeah. Yeah, 15 years. 14, 15 years, yeah.
Which is wild. But, you know, I think I saw, obviously, you being in a new community, and it took you time to adjust. Once I feel like you guys really, like, settled in, it definitely... Things took off.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
For sure.
We're just going to say for sure for the rest of the podcast.
No. Because, listen, the first couple of months, it wasn't hard, like by any stretch of the imagination, but it did take, we had to get to know one another. We had to get to know what bothered the other person. We had to get to know like the nitty gritty details that for most people it doesn't matter. For me and you, like, we're friends. You don't care how I brush my teeth, or if I brush my teeth, or to what extent I brush my teeth, and not that Rachel cares how I brush my teeth. I think she wants me to be clean, you know, but it becomes a lot more prevalent when you're always with that person doing this specific thing. If you don't brush your teeth, I see you once every couple of weeks or months. I don't give a crap whether you brush your teeth or not. Like, you have your own way of living your life, and I have my own way of living my life. But it took, the first couple of months was two different human beings just getting used to living together, you know, like in the most intimate way, you know, and any difference is immediately picked up, you know, and you could choose to engage or not engage in something that's, you know, a bicker or a fight or, you know, whatever it is, or even just a dry observation, you know, that, so it took some time to figure out, and I think it's actually good that I was disassociated during that time period because I didn't take anything too personally. I'm just like, okay, you don't like I do that, I just won't do that.
Yeah, but that's your personality, I feel like. Like, I don't...
No, I'm very sensitive.
That's true. Actually, I'm
going
to take that back. You are a very sensitive person.
Yeah. I take...
It's all my...
We both are, for sure. But I take, like, part of what makes me a good and bad salesman is that I take my customers to heart. You know, so someone will like call me upset about something and it'll legitimately ruin my day because like I feel like I let them down. Or if someone calls me and goes, "You're a dishonest person," I'm like, "Fuck you! I'm not dishonest. You're dishonest." Great, yeah, thank you. You know, and I take it personally. And it really upsets me. But then when when it's a nice customer or like a regular decent person and they're happy and everything goes well, there is nothing more gratifying than like knowing that you did someone right. Like, they gave you their money and you made a living and they got what they wanted and they're happy with the service you provided and like they walk away with a good feeling. Like, that's the best thing to me.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, that's kind of why I do what I do also. I mean, I think it's as you were saying that, I think it's just to bring up, like, for the listeners here, Effie and I are very, very different people. I don't say very. I think we've become a little bit more, but over time. But
how do you mean?
I think Effie's the most laid back person you probably will ever meet, and the most go with the flow. I'm definitely more, scheduled, planned out, probably more methodical, and yeah, I just think like very different, but yet we get along.
I think because a lot of our core values are the same. like the things that we value loyalty, we value friendship, we
Right,
value
I think the
relationships.
manifestations of those are different.
Yeah, the way that we go about it might not be the same, but like what we're trying to accomplish, the things we're looking to do are the same. You know, like, and also it complements each other. If when we went to Ireland or we go to Orlando or we do, you know, we go on any of our trips together, and if it were up to me, we'd land and we'd have no hotel booked and we'd have nowhere to go and we'd have no idea what to do. We'd just go to a pub and just drink Guinness, you know. And
I mean, that did happen when we went to DC for one of our breaks in college.
With Andrew?
And we
Shout
literally
out.
didn't have
A
a
hotel.
hotel booked as we were driving from Baltimore to DC.
That's
and your
crazy. I
dad
forgot about
booked a
that.
hotel, and we walk into the hotel room, and it's 3 people with 1 king-size bed.
yeah, we watched The Good Dinosaur. Remember that? And we worked
Yeah.
out. We got matching tank tops.
I know, but I was saying it if it was
you,
we
we would have had a hotel booked a month in advance. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it still worked out. So like,
It always works out.
But as I say, like I think it's taught me how to be a little bit more, you know, go with the flow, and you know, things will always work out.
And my wife is more like when you do trips, like she plans. Like she just knows like Ephraim's not going to do it. Like, she just knows
No
like
shot.
She was like, listen, like, you know, like our honeymoon was Greece, Italy, and Ireland, and like 2 months before the trip, she was like, we still don't have a single flight booked, and I'm like, listen, I love you. It's not going to happen if you don't do it. Like, it's like the trip is not. It's just not going to happen. I can't bring myself to get online.
I mean, I don't know if you know this, but our other friends have a running joke where you don't know where Ephraim Hirschman's going to be until he's actually there.
Yeah.
Which is a very true statement. But you know, there's also a lot of beauty in that as well, right? You live life to the fullest in the moment. So, but yeah, no, it's
because I don't really care about, to me, things like where you are or where you're staying or like what your plan is. It's not really as it's all sidebar to me. It's all like what I care about is who I'm with
in the experience.
And the experience. So like, I've stayed in disgusting hotels. I've stayed in great hotels. End of the day, they generally tend to be just a place where you're sleeping. Like,
Yeah.
how much time are you spending in your 5-star hotel when you go to Italy?
I mean, I don't stay at these places because I'm very low maintenance when it comes to these
even
things.
4-star or a beautiful Airbnb. How long are you staying in your Airbnb when you go to
Very
these
little.
places? You go to these places, you leave first thing in the morning, you spend an entire day, you know, doing whatever you want to do, experiencing that place, that city, that town, and then you come back and you go to bed.
Yeah.
You don't want I remember the first hotel in Dublin.
First hotel.
That crappy little place. There wasn't enough room.
Oh yeah.
There wasn't enough room to put both of our suitcases.
Now to talk about
in the room.
association, now that I would totally forgot about that part of the trip, but now like we literally got our bags. We like went to this it was like this industrial part of like Dublin. It was like it was like closer to the train station, and it was a tiny room. There was no room for
There wasn't enough room for both bags.
Yeah, we could not both move.
We couldn't both like open our bags at the same time. We had to stack them. I think the shower was shit.
Yeah.
And I think,
but like we only stayed there one night, but it didn't matter.
Yeah.
2 nights maybe.
What did you do after? No, it was only one night.
We went to after that we went to Galway. Took the train to Galway. And
Yeah.
remember that tour guide? It was his first time in a pub in like a year and a half.
Yeah, because everyone just was getting their vaccines.
Yeah.
Rip.
Yeah,
Rip to all the people
rip to
that got them and that didn't get them. Rip to everyone, man.
I just have one final question for you, I guess, as the host, to kind of bring us back to why we're here. First of all, this is, I think, your first live guest.
It's true. Yeah.
So I guess, what are you trying to get out of
This?
this and the podcast in general, and also, are you trying to bring out something different with each guest, or are you trying to stick to a similar theme?
No, definitely not a similar theme. I think there's a lot of things I think all the time.
I would hope so.
One of the things that one of the reasons that I wanted to do this is because I think, and I think that there's a lot of negative media, and there's a lot of and social media, and the way that our world works is that we reward attacking, aggressive type of behavior, and we don't reward the healthy, positive aspects of life, of relationships, and that's actually, it's interesting because people even manipulate. Like if you have, I think generally speaking, overall, Joe Rogan's podcast is very positive, right?
Yeah, it is.
Overall, say what you will about his guests or how much he pushes back on crazy things they say or don't. Overall, and actually I go back and forth with Ari Mendel about this quite a bit. Is someone like Joe Rogan's job? Is his job to fact check everyone and everything that comes onto his podcast and make sure it's 100% accurate? Or is his job to expose a new perspective in general? And whether it's true or not, is up to whoever's listening to determine. And then finally, or third option, is it just for him to do whatever the hell he wants and you don't have to listen if you don't want to listen? And that's it.
I think do you have an answer to that question?
So I think that someone like Joe Rogan is probably closer to the second thing. I think people like Tucker Carlson, who I don't take what Tucker Carlson says. I don't listen to him all the time by any means. I listen to him probably once every month or two, depending on who he's talking to. I don't take what he says literally most of the time. But it does expose a new way of thinking that is not common, that is not generally portrayed in the overwhelming media that most people are going to be exposed to. And I think that there is a really important value to hearing things outside of just what the mainstream perspective is, because that's integral. Because at a certain point, even if he's wrong 9 out of 10 times, and you expect him to be wrong, one of those 10 times he's going to be right. And one of those 10 times, it's going to be something important that he's right about that someone else isn't talking about. And it's important that we all have access to that, right? It's important that we all are able to receive it. So, listen with a little bit of skepticism, with a lot of skepticism, but understand that what you hear and what you're being exposed to is not. I've never been less convinced that there's just one story to tell in life. I've never been less convinced that there's one narrative.
There's 3 sides to every story, almost.
There's a million sides to every story, and there's a million sides to every experience. And who's to say that just because I'm saying something, that's the way it is? Who's to say that's the way that this journalist or this news anchor says something, that's the way it is? So it's important, I think, to be able to have a lot of voice out there. Now, I would like for this voice to be an overwhelmingly positive voice where things are productive, where things are, look at the bright side, look at the positive side, look at how can we be healthy and what works for you, because I think a lot of the emphasis is on, in media, is on divisiveness. Most of the emphasis is custom tailored to what you already think and what you're already thinking. But if something is given to you or presented to you in a reasonable, calm, friendly, warm way that might not be something that you ever thought about, that could have a really positive impact on you. That could have a really beneficial impact, and a lot of times, for example, I don't really align with a left or a right politically. I come from a very right-wing family. I've become a lot more left-oriented on a lot of matters just based on organic reading about people or businesses or companies or stories, and no one's trying to shove anything down my throat, and no one's trying to force anything. It's just another perspective of what people are like, and I'm like, you know what? I kind of hear that. I kind of get that, and it's not presented as divisive. It's not presented as aggressive. It's just this is what these people do. It worked for them. They were happy. They were meaningful. They were successful. They were good at what they did, and that's really beautiful. And and that's the end of it. And so I think that my goal with this is to have a lot of different people on with just different thought out, positive, warm conversations, enjoyable conversations that you can listen to at any point. You could pop on any guest or any point, any person, and just be exposed to just a new narrative, a new perspective in a healthy way that could open up someone's eyes to another way of looking at things.
Yeah, I think, we'll end on that. But I think that's exactly what I feel like this conversation and our conversations in general are very much like about. I feel like, you know, we always get into these like, I don't know, we could just talk for hours and hours and hours. I mean, we've been talking for probably close to an hour now, and can continue probably for another 2-3 hours. I think.
Yeah, easy.
Our audience, and our audience would get, or your audience would get really
don't worry
bored.
about them. Don't worry about the audience. Don't worry about boredom. if it's a good conversation, you'll keep it up or you pause it and you keep on going. You know,
That's true.
And you always come back.
Well, best of luck.
Man.
Hopefully we'll be back on soon. And
it'll be great, man.
Thanks for the
It'll
experience.
be great. Cheers, dude. Catch you later.